Suddenly one day we got approached by a Chinese manufacturing company. That manufacturing company were called New Star Electronics. They had, up to that point in time, for years they had been ripping off Sega and Nintendo games machines and selling them into China. But they wanted to get legal, they wanted to get legitimate. So they approached us, and the idea was that they were going to put in the other 25 million, and they would have been our manufacturing source, which would have been really good for us to have a partner in our business who was actually manufacturing for us.
Minister Chen said, is it all right if we hang around? Business, Joe, get it? Hangers.
The other $25 million came from, we found ourselves a Chinese manufacturing company. They were called New Star Electronics. And they had, right up to that time, and I think even during that time, they were ripping off Sega and Nintendo products and selling them into China without paying any licenses, of course.
And Colin is one of the most financially brilliant people I've ever met in my life. He's incredible.
Most beautiful flower in the garden.
And we sat down and said, what do we need to do? We need to do a business plan. So Colin and I prepared a fully comprehensive business plan. Trust me, everything you can imagine. And we were also approached by a Chinese manufacturing company called New Star Electronics, who at that moment in time, and had been for several years, they used to rip off Sega and Nintendo products and sell them into China without any license or paying any royalties.
And so we sat down and we spent months and months and months, days and days and hours, devising a business plan. And the business plan was so powerful that in 1994-95, we raised $50 million from investment. You try and do that today. It's very, very difficult to do that today.
And we were also approached by a Chinese manufacturing company called New Star Electronics, who had, up to that moment in time, they'd been knocking off and ripping off Sega and Nintendo products and selling them into China. But we figured what a great match. So they came to us and they wanted to get involved. And frankly, we thought that was a great idea.
Right now, we're negotiating with the Chinese.
We also then met up with a Chinese manufacturing company called New Star Electronics. And they had, up until that point in time, they'd been ripping off Sega and Nintendo machines and selling them into China and not paying any royalties to anybody.
Colin and I we worked very hard for several months putting together a business plan, which, even if I say so myself, this business plan was absolutely out of this world.
Suddenly one day we got approached by a Chinese manufacturing company. That manufacturing company were called New Star Electronics. They had, up to that point in time, for years they had been ripping off Sega and Nintendo games machines and selling them into China.
Colin, who I've said this on many occasions, is an absolutely brilliant financial guy, very, very astute. And so
the other 25 million that we raised, and which is the number that we needed, was coming from a company called New Star Electronics, who were a Chinese manufacturing company who, up until that time, in fact, even during that time, they had been making Sega and Nintendo products without a license and selling them into China in big numbers.
And we were also approached by a Chinese manufacturing company called New Star Electronics, who had, up to that moment in time, they'd been knocking off and ripping off Sega and Nintendo products and selling them into China. But we figured what a great match.
Because our business plan was incredible.
A very, very powerful business plan.
And so they're always going to do the right thing by it.
And the reason is that the business plan that we put together was a very comprehensive one.
And we were also approached by a Chinese manufacturing company called New Star Electronics, who at that moment in time, and had been for several years, they used to rip off Sega and Nintendo products and sell them into China without any license or paying any royalties.
Colin, who I've said this on many occasions, is an absolutely brilliant financial guy, very, very astute. So he and I worked together and produced a business plan, and the business plan was absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, the idea was that New Star Electronics had in fact been pirating. They've been pirating
No.
No.
There was some rumors.
No. They had been pirating the other games machines, and not paying anybody any royalties for a very long time. But
we had such a solid business plan.
In the middle of this, pulling the consortium together, we got approached by a Chinese manufacturing company called New Star Electronics, and they wanted to come in. They had been ripping off and selling Sega and Nintendo products in China for years, never paying anything for it.
So we sat down and we wrote a business plan.
And they said it was a fantastic business plan, and it was.
And the business plan, I mean, Colin is a genius when it comes to finances and stuff like that. It's just so good.
Now the Chinese are getting cold feet. That could kill us. Getting very nervous.
Now, what happened was that Petro Dachenko, under orders of I'm pretty sure it was Manfred Schmidt, who was the MD, the owner of ESCOM, went to New Star Electronics while we were all there doing our due diligence, and more or less said to them, look, don't go with the British guys. Come with us. You don't have to pay 25 million. We'll give it to you for 5 million, which was a complete lie anyway. So they pulled the rug from us because they decided that the better bet was with the ESCOM bid because it cost them less money.
Anyway, what happened was that 3 days, or 2 days I think it was, prior to the auction of the assets, the Chinese pulled out. They said, we're not going to go with you. We subsequently found out that they'd been got at by a certain German company, no names mentioned, who'd said to them, don't put your 25 million in. If you come in with us, you don't have to put any money in. When we buy it, you can have the rights to build for no money.
Just a few days prior to the auction, New Star Electronics announced that they were pulling out of our consortium. They didn't say why. We have subsequently found out why, but they said they were not going to put the money up. And the fact that we actually raised 50 million bucks in time to make a bid. We obviously did something. Again, we did something right. Our downfall is that we trusted the Chinese, and that's a lesson to learn.
Excuse me, guys. So that's how we got cheated out of it, because our business plan was incredible.